Hello, everyone. I'm Christine Gritmon, and this is Let's Talk About Brand. I do this show every single Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time, talking with various smart people about different elements of branding, especially personal branding. Thank you so much for being here today. For our replay viewers, I would love it if you could just pop replay in the comments and let us know where you're watching, Facebook, Twitter, or Periscope. As always, we do have a special giveaway. We also had the same giveaway during my Tuesday chat about brand on Twitter, which happens same bat time, 12 noon Eastern on Tuesdays on Twitter. Chat about brand. This week we talked about branding with vulnerability, which is what we're going to be talking about with our guest today, Michaela Alexis. And in fact, Michaela has provided our awesome giveaway this week. It is her very own Makeover Your LinkedIn Profile workshop. And our live viewers can win that right now by tweeting LinkedIn in the comments, and at about 25 past the hour, we are going to draw our winner. Sorry, replay viewers, only live viewers can win this prize, but come back next Friday at noon for a chance to win next week's prize. So today's guest, Michaela Alexis, she is a friend of mine, she's fantastic, and we're going to talk with her about branding with vulnerability. We're going to talk about what vulnerability means, and we're going to hear some of Michaela's own really, really impactful story about how I'm not even sure if she really had a personal brand before she had this key moment when vulnerability really turned out to work well for her, simply because she knew exactly how to hit that right point of vulnerability being about being real and being open, not about what we all fear with vulnerability, which is, kind of seeming like you have it less together. It has actually opened up opportunities for her. So clearly it has not been to her detriment, but we're going to talk all about that with our fabulous guest, Michaela Alexis. Hey, Michaela!
Hello! That is amazing. I just want that sound effect every time I do something during my day. If I check something off my to-do list, I just want an applause, Amazing!
You know what? I'll text you periodically, like voice memos, just with
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being on. It's funny because you were on my old show, Social, twice, but both times I believe was specifically talking about LinkedIn, because you are, of course, a LinkedIn strategist, a LinkedIn educator, all of that. But today we're going to be talking specifically about a really key moment in your personal brand history that is part of what helped springboard that whole thing. So, and of course, we are talking about that first viral LinkedIn post that you did a few years ago when you had lost your job. And could you just kind of lead us through that whole story for those who may not know?
Yeah, let's go down the vulnerability wormhole a little bit. So I started on LinkedIn back in 2016. And what a lot of people don't know, people might know about that first viral article, but before I had actually written the article, I had done a little test. And so I had gone on LinkedIn and I sent out a whole bunch of resumes. I think I sent out 10 with a tracking code on them because I'm a marketer. Because I wanted to see, I'm like, okay, this is how I've always done things. This is how I've always looked for a job. I've just sent out a whole bunch of resumes and hope for the best. Let me actually see how many of these resumes are actually opened. And sure enough, only one of them was ever opened. And I was like, okay, well, this is probably an issue, because I knew in my heart, I'm like, the most confident person is always going to get the job. And so when you're a job seeker, you really need to maintain and protect that confidence, because you need that when you're going into a room to interview. And so before I wrote that article, I actually put out a post saying, I've never done this before, but this is who I am. I introduced myself. I'm like, this is what I have to offer. I shared a little bit more about my experience. I said, this is what I'm looking for. And I'm not going to rely on resumes. I'm not going to send out any more resumes. But I would love, if you see any opportunities, let me know.
Just to back up a little bit, what were you doing at the time? What had you been looking for an opportunity in?
So that's a tough question. So I was laid off a month before my 30th birthday. So I was 29, laid off from a tech startup. And I had been in social media marketing for about a decade at that point. And so I felt like I was at a crossroads because the same thing kept happening, right? I would go into a job, I would work there for 2 to 3 years, something would happen, I would lose the passion, the workplace would be toxic, and I would end up leaving and finding a new role. And so I just kind of kept feeling like I wasn't getting any further ahead. So I had to take a step back and think of not just what kind of salary do I want, what kind of perks do I want, but what kind of culture do I want to be part of? And so it was the first time that I wasn't really looking to work with huge brands. I wasn't really looking so much at having a massive salary. It was more of working in a place whose values aligned with mine. And so that opened up a whole bunch of doors for me in that time. But I really was looking for my forever home. I was looking for my dream job, and I wanted to aim really high. And when I put out that post on LinkedIn, it was kind of like, you got nothing to lose, right? At a certain point. And so I felt in that moment like I had nothing to lose. And I had always been very guarded. There were a lot of, I suffered with social anxiety and agoraphobia and all these things. And I had never mentioned them out loud because, just like you mentioned, I had this fear of appearing weak.
Especially in your 20s, right? Like in your 20s,
in your 20s,
I feel like there's this idea of what you're supposed to, you want to fit the mold. You don't want to stand out necessarily because people may consider you unprofessional.
Well, and that's the thing, is that at that point, I started to come to this realization that there was no blueprint. I had, up until that point, been following this blueprint of what I thought you needed to do to be successful. You had to work the late hours. You had to take the jobs that seemed the most responsible and the most stable choices. Not just like, do you see yourself working long term? Where are you going to be appreciated? Where are you going to feel valued? But it's like, what's the salary? What are the benefits? Like all of that stuff. And I realized, when I was 29 and I was, faced with being broke, no further ahead to my goals than I had been in the years prior, that something had to change. And so maybe I had to change. Maybe there were no rules, and maybe I needed to break whatever rules did exist because it wasn't working for me. And so when I put that post on LinkedIn, I didn't think anything of it. I posted it, kind of walked away, and something crazy happened. Like, people started sending me messages being like, we don't have a job open, but we would love you to come in and interview, because that was really courageous that you put yourself out there like that and shared like your value and what you're looking for and all. And I was like, okay, this is weird, because I didn't think that anybody actually cared. I didn't think that we actually cared about each other on that level. And I certainly didn't think that people that didn't know me were going to care about me. And people started to become really invested in my story. And that was really exciting for me. So I just started sharing stories of where I was interviewing and what I was doing each day and the books that I was reading. And I realized that the more that I talked about my journey, the more people became invested in, okay, where is she going to end up? Right. And
like a character in a show they were watching almost, except exactly. They could participate.
They felt like they were going along for the ride with me. Like, they were telling their friends to hire me, and their friends were bringing me in. And I was going on like 3 interviews a day. And I actually turned down 4 job offers within a 2-week period, which has never happened to me before. And so throughout this experience, I was like getting goosebumps, because I'm like, guys, I think I found a better way to present yourself and to go for what you want. And so the article that I wrote, which is how I landed my dream job in 2 weeks, was actually kind of based on everything that I had learned through that 2-week process. There was no intention of it going viral or anything like that. It was just, I'm a job seeker. I know that there's other job seekers that are also used to doing things the way that they think that it's supposed to be done. And that way doesn't work anymore. And here's a better way of doing things. And I think that what you'll find is that most people that are ultimately successful in whatever they start doing, they started with this, I wish that I knew this thing. And that was my moment of, I wish that I knew this information that I'm going to tell other job seekers. And so that's where it really that's where it really began, and that was 5 years ago. And so I've been slowly unraveling this, like if I'm a mummy, I'm unraveling the cotton and sharing more and more of myself each day, and really taking a look at my life and what are those topics that I'm afraid to talk about. And usually those things that I'm afraid to talk about are the things that are most worthwhile, especially in the business world.
Oh, totally. Oh, we're going to dig deeper into that in just a minute. I just want to remind our live viewers that we have a giveaway today, and our giveaway is from Michaela. Those of you who know Michaela know that she is a LinkedIn expert, and so she is very generously giving one live viewer, sorry replay viewers, we love you, come back next week, but this week, one live viewer who types LinkedIn in the comments at about 25 after, we are going to choose our live winner for today to win Michaela's Make Over Your LinkedIn Profile workshop. And that is a recorded workshop. You don't have to like go anywhere. All right. Boop, boop, boop. Oops, I'm messing up my overlays. Okay. So Michaela, let's dig a little bit more into what you put out there during that time that resonated with people, and how the response has been ever since, because I know it hasn't been all sunshine and roses. There are definitely people who tell you that this is not what LinkedIn is for. And it's very funny because those people are telling you how to use LinkedIn, which is just hilarious. But let's dig into how you showed kind of a not usual level of vulnerability for a platform like LinkedIn.
Yeah, so when I started, originally I was talking about my experience as a job seeker, and then it was my experience as an employee working in a role, and some of the challenges that I was having there. And then I started opening up about some of my experiences being a female creator on a business-focused platform. And gosh, if you had told me back then that I would be sharing the things that I share now, I would have been like, absolutely no way. It really was one article or one post at a time. And it was scary every single time because I had this idea ingrained in me that you have the personal and professional self, and they should never mix. God forbid you tell anybody that you're a human being in the workplace.
No. You take that off.
God, we can't do that.
Rogers. You can wear the cardigan and the comfy shoes in your house, but then you got to do the jacket and the tie and the shoes. You got to take that off when you leave the house and go to work. But no, you don't. I also have to point out that I think that part of it is somewhat generational. I think because you're a millennial, as you even say in your bio. And I think that has also been a really seismic shift because people of, our parents' generations, I feel like it was a very different time for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know that for most of my adult life, I had that idea of the personal and professional self ingrained in me. And certainly, like when I'm working with clients, the ones that are closer to retirement are the ones that we really have to work through shifting that mindset versus the younger generation. I've worked with students that are still in university, and man, like it's just a totally different world. They just embrace it fully. We don't have to work through the mindset shift. They just are ready and willing to share who they are. But I also think that some of that has come with two things: the gig economy, where people are not just working one job. So there's not that same scariness of you work in one role and
you retire
oh my gosh,
with the
you said something
after 40 years. Yeah, it's very
exactly different. That's not the goal anymore. The loyalties are different, where it's more of a relationship versus a one-way street that it used to be. But also now with the rise of remote working, where people, I mean, I'm talking to you right now, I've got my slippers on the floor, I'm sitting cross-legged, and I've got my dog's butt is in the frame, my other chihuahua is laying beside me. And I think that we started to realize, right? But it doesn't matter if your dog's butt is dog butts are not great to have in the frame, but regardless, you still have that same expertise. You have that same experience. You are a professional, whether you're wearing sweatpants and a sweatshirt or a pantsuit. And so as silly as that sounds saying it out loud, that has been something that's been ingrained in the business world for a very long time until the pandemic, where now people are starting to really shift their mindset. So a lot of the pushback that I got in the beginning, like when I started as a creator on LinkedIn, I look back at some of those posts because every once in a while somebody will like it or add a comment or something like that, and I am shocked that I continued sharing anything because it was horrible. There are death threats on there. There are people telling me to stop talking, to stop writing. That the comments are unbelievable. People were really upset with me just for the idea of me sharing a photo of myself or sharing a video of myself. Because there were platforms like Facebook and Instagram and things like that, where it was like that was considered personal and that was okay for personal, but you cannot share your face if you're a professional.
And that goes beyond the professional personal. I think a very key part of that is being a young woman on the internet as well. I mean, I feel like if you were
for sure
a 45-year-old dude, it was a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean, some of the comments that I got privately were, here's a conversation that I had with another man on this platform, and this is how, slutty we think you are, and how this and that. And I'm like, it was this different level of hatred. You're always going to have trolls, and troll comments are fine. It's part of the gig. And I've dealt with it for 5 years. But some of the things, especially in the beginning, that I faced would absolutely shock the majority of people that are listening, especially coming from a business platform. They were horrible. And it got to a point actually where both my husband and my boss at the time were telling me to stop writing because they were getting so upset by the comments, and they would get calls. And it was absolute madness because that wasn't what the platform was all about at the time. And I was doing things a little bit differently. But the good news is that things have certainly changed for the better over the last 5 years. And it's been probably one of my greatest joys to see the platform turn to be more human, and people can share some of the things that I used to share in the past. And it's really wonderful to see people open up, especially those people that have lived their entire life thinking that they had to act a certain way, now being able to fully share who they are. And I mean, these are the people that have I just got goosebumps. My clients that have been in the roles that they've been in for the last 30, 40 years, those are the ones I want to learn from, right? Those are the ones that have been through it all. And yet, historically, those have been the people that have been quiet on the platform. And so it's wonderful to see young creators. But for me personally, I love seeing those older creators that are finally sharing their story and are able to share their experience without this weighted feeling of no, that's too much.
They're having to deprogram that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Into them. Or, to be very blunt about it, like Trisha, people are douchebags.
They exist everywhere, right?
I want to remind everyone that we do have a giveaway for our live viewers, and we're going to be drawing that very soon. So please just get hashtag LinkedIn in the comments. We're going to be drawing it at about 25 after the hour. So Michaela, you were very open and honest about how you just really put yourself out there. When you were looking for a job, you landed that dream job within 2 weeks, and you kept on sharing more and more. You realized that this had momentum. Despite all the adversities. So now I want to talk about how it actually shaped your career, because you landed that dream job, but again, that was working for somebody else in sort of more of a role that was, I think, similar to what you knew you were looking for at the time. But not very long after that, you wound up kind of going for it on your own and becoming the LinkedIn trainer that we know today. So can we talk about how that journey was sort of springboarded off of that vulnerability that you and that crowd, that audience you had amassed?
I'm really glad that you asked this question, because I think sometimes we look at vulnerability as a strategy and it's like there are only benefits. There are certainly drawbacks to being a vulnerable person. And the number one drawback is that people, and it's kind of a double-edged sword, people feel like they know you personally. Like there are people that have been following me since 2016 and they think that we are best friends. And I love that. That's amazing that I have all these friends worldwide, but it also creates this added pressure of, oh shoot, if I say or do the wrong thing, they're also going to take it very personally as well. And so I started building my followers, got to over 100,000 followers. At a certain point, after all of these people were messaging me saying, I don't know what you're doing on LinkedIn, but can you help me do it for my business? My then bosses approached me and they're like, we don't want you to leave. We want you to stay here. And we feel like the solution to this would be to open a new department in the organization. They had a business at the time that was super successful and growing really quickly that was just focused on social media. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I have everything I ever wanted. They were going to acquire a business. So it wasn't like I was going to be running a brand new business. I would have their support. And I could still stick around, but do something that's going to be a little bit more challenging. And so I got really excited, as I do, and wrote an article about going from penniless to president, because I was going to be president of this new wing of the organization.
That's the name of the TV movie of your story, Penniless to President.
I guess I am the president of my own organization now. My employees are just my Chihuahua and my Westie Yorkie.
That's
but
okay.
But yeah, so I wrote this article. The article ended up going viral. It got picked up by CNBC. Wow. And so then it blew up even more. And I was like loving it. I'm like, this is amazing. I have like made everything that I ever wanted. I had the corner office, the prestigious title. I was working with the same bosses that I like absolutely adored. The problem is that after I announced that I was going to be taking over this new department, the acquisition fell through. So then behind the scenes, I was then approached with, we're going to have to start a brand new company. It's not going to look anything like what we thought it was going to, and you're going to have to run the entire thing. So it wasn't just okay, it looks like Michaela's in charge. I had already signed up for this thing that I couldn't back out of. Wow. And I'm like, oh, okay. And they were like, we're going to walk you through it. And I was like, okay. So I tried, and, a few months
it wasn't what you signed up for, though. Yeah.
It wasn't what I signed up for. But the worst part is that I realized that it wasn't my dream to build a business. Mm-hmm. I know I had hired a CEO, and I listened to him talk about it and how passionate he was about building businesses. And like, when people like light up when they talk about something that they're really excited about, mm-hmm. I was like, I don't feel that. I don't feel that spark.
I feel like a lot of people in kind of our general industry, and a lot of industries, honestly, they have the thing they love to do. They have their zone of genius. And then when you have to like do business building,
it's very different.
It's an entirely different thing. It's not part of that same spring.
No, and it can be a totally different skill set. Yes. I learned pretty quickly that I am not the best manager, naturally, at least. I work with VAs, and I work with some contract employees now and have no issues. But back then I thought that I could read a couple business books and like learn about leadership, and I was going to naturally just become a leader.
Listen to some Gary Vaynerchuk, some Tony Robbins, right? Set.
Yeah, and
I harder, Michaela.
I felt like I had achieve the dream, and behind the scenes I was like, this is a nightmare.
Yeah.
I would literally do all of these like promos for talks that I was giving about success and landing your dream job, which at the time, like, it literally looked like I had skyrocketed into this position, and yet I would be crying in my office at 7, 8, and 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
You know what to do next once you went on your own? You kind of went back to LinkedIn.
So let me just preface this by saying that I am not a risk taker. I am not somebody, I hate like high diving boards. I do not play the lottery. If I go to the casino, I'm playing like the penny slots for a half hour and I win enough money to get a cocktail and that's it for the night. So I certainly wasn't somebody that was like born with this entrepreneurial spirit of I want to be the next Steve Jobs. And so I had kind of like come to this crossroads of like, what do I do at this point? And my husband and I, we booked a trip to Costa Rica. And I remember on the plane being like, I need to find the answers on this trip. I need to know what I'm going to do next. And on the last day of my trip, I did this ziplining tour. And at the end of the ziplining tour, there was this thing called the Tarzan swing where like they strap you into like a harness and then you basically jump off of a cliff and you like swing off a cliff. It's fun and terrifying. And so I started off by like screaming, of course. And then I just start sobbing. And it was because in that moment, I realized that I couldn't remember the last time I had laughed or smiled, or I could just be myself. That was the first time I had been myself, like just Mick, and not Michaela Alexis, this persona of success that I created and felt like I had to sustain on LinkedIn. And I went back to the office. I went back to Ottawa and walked into the office and I said, I'm done. I've got to step back. This isn't the dream anymore. And I, again, am like not a risk taker. I am not somebody that makes decisions lightly at all. But for me, I felt like in that moment, it was very clearly becoming like an existential crisis. Like I knew, and at the same time, behind the scenes, I was doing a lot of LinkedIn training for all of our clients. Like my clients adored me. So I would go in and I would do these workshops with them. And I felt that spark that the CEO had about building businesses. I had that spark every time I was teaching. And so I knew, and I had spent months saying, I know what the thing is, but I can't do it yet. And so I felt like when I walked into that room, I was led by something, as cheesy as it sounds, that was bigger than my fear. And it was that I need to go and do this thing full time. This is what I'm passionate about.
I love that. To that end, we do have to announce our winner, and we have just a couple minutes left. But right after we announce our winner, I have some questions for you from the chat, from participants in Tuesday's chat about LinkedIn. So it dovetails nicely into your LinkedIn theme. But first, I want to announce our winner. Our winner today of Michaela's Makeover Your LinkedIn Profile workshop is Mark Madden. He gets the applause too, so congrats, Mark. DM me your email address and we will get that right to you. So Michaela, you felt alive when you your clients loved you, when you were helping people with LinkedIn. That was just clearly where you came alive. So then you started doing that. Tell us just a little bit about that, and then I have a couple quick questions for you from our viewers.
Yeah, well, the hard part of vulnerability, like I mentioned before, is that during those moments, and you have to go back, and I had to share that I was leaving this thing that I had told everybody was a dream. And I didn't just have to make that decision for myself, but I had to announce it to, millions of people that were going to read this story. And so I wrote an article called The Girl with No Title, and I talked about my decision and how I came to that decision. And I will be honest with you, I got a lot of positive feedback. People were really supportive generally, but I did get some feedback where people said that they were disappointed, that they have been following my story and they felt like, they watched me do it and they felt like maybe they could do it too. And now that I walked away, they felt like they were lost and they almost felt like they were let down. And that was hard. That was really hard.
I also probably felt like you were like ungrateful for your opportunities, or like that you were bigger than this. And it's like
there were a lot of it was very emotional, right? Yeah. And that's the other side of vulnerability, is that there are emotions involved. When you learn how to tell a story well, that's when people can see themselves in your story. That's a power of storytelling. It's not your story. It becomes their story. And so that was the other side of it. But I mean, overall, over the last 4 years, I've been sharing my ups and my downs. And it's so wonderful to have like that support behind me. So I think it's generally worth it. But that is something that I always like to point out because, again, this isn't a marketing strategy and it's not for the faint of heart. Vulnerability isn't just vulnerability when it's easy. In fact, vulnerability is usually when it's really hard. And that there's no easy button for that. It usually makes you feel really nauseous when you're about to do something scary.
But it can be so worth it. Oh, I love it. Thank you so much for all of that. Couple quick questions from our chat about brand people on Tuesday. And if any live viewers right now of the live stream want to ask their questions, hop in. So these two are pretty similar. Chris wants to know the most common mistake you see people make on LinkedIn. And similarly, Marianne wants to know the worst thing you've seen on a profile when doing your review or audit. They can be the same answer, they can be different.
Okay. I have a really short attention span, so keep both of the questions up if you can.
Can do.
Or I'll answer the first one. Okay, there we go. Okay, so the most common mistake that I see people make on LinkedIn is usually, so I have a formula for the stories that I tell, and this is just going to be between us and all of your audience. But it's called the what, the so what, and the now what formula. So generally, when you're telling a story, most people will tell either the so what or the what. So the what is your story. So that could be, my story about swinging on the Tarzan swing in Costa Rica. Now, most people will just share the what, and that's it in terms of their story. What you want to do is have the story. So the story is, I did this thing in Costa Rica. The so what is the lessons that you learned through that process. So the lesson that I learned in that story was that I needed to go and do things that made me happy because in that moment, I couldn't remember the last time I was happy. Okay. And then the now what is the call to action. So now that you've told this story and you've created this emotional connection with your audience, what do you want them to do now? And so most of the time it's inviting conversation, right? A very simple way would be, tell me about a time that you've had to make a really hard decision. Or, the simple one on LinkedIn is like if you agree with this, or share this with somebody that needs this reminder. Let me know if this is something that you needed to hear today. So including all three elements is really necessary. And so I see people either doing the what, which is the story, or even more common is the so what. So that would be like me saying, this is how you can be more productive during your day. Well, hang on a second.
You haven't drawn
I don't know you. Yeah, I don't know you. Who are you to tell me what to do, right? So unless people feel heard and understood, and they feel like you are sharing parts of yourself. Like I have people like, you shouldn't see my inbox on LinkedIn because it's a safe space.
Yeah.
But I have the most sensitive information that some people have ever told anybody.
Wow.
And the only reason that they tell me these things is because I have given them permission. Right? I have allowed them to share their story with me because I've shared a piece of myself. And so without that piece of yourself of here's my story of a time that I've had a challenge and here's what I learned, you're going to get one of two things. Either the story where it's like, okay, so you went to Costa Rica, congratulations, or the opposite, which is who are you to tell me what to do? Right? So including all three elements is it's a process that I've used since 2016, and that is the most effective way to tell stories, whether you're doing video, articles, posts, you name it. And then the other one, the what's the worst that I've seen
that can
when
be
doing
a little sensitive, so you can be vague.
Okay,
but...
no. Let's do this because this was a long time ago. So this is like, I feel like there's like a statute of limitations on this. This is really funny. So I had one client back in the day, and I always tell people to check your imagery on both mobile and desktop because LinkedIn is actually really unique in that I think it's 50% of people use the mobile version and 50% still use the desktop version, which always blows my mind. Like I have some clients that are like, oh, I don't even have the app. I'm like, what? But anyways, so I had this one client and he had this really great photo, a cover image of his staff members. And they were all kind of like, arms over each other, like buddy buddy. It was very sweet. And I went and I looked at it on the mobile version, and you see his nice profile photo and then a whole line of crotches behind his head. Because it had like cut out people's faces
so differently on mobile and desktop on LinkedIn.
Exactly.
Facebook
so
too.
if you have a group photo, definitely make sure that you don't have a whole bunch of crotches showing up on the mobile version, because that is a very real thing. And he was like, I told him, and he was like, I've had that up for 6 months. And it was the best. So that's one. I mean, there's nothing that I've seen that's like been crazy. I think most people kind of generally make the same mistakes. It's like your about description is in third person perspective, so it feels very robotic. You know, you might have a cover image that's of a stock photo. I did too. These are all mistakes that I've made in the past. But I think generally the biggest mistake that people make is that they don't really consider the opportunity that is available on LinkedIn. It's essentially the world's largest networking event, which, you know, with over 740 million users last time I saw, and people aren't thinking about what kind of impression they're making with their LinkedIn profile, right? We kind of have this like feeling like it's like, oh, I'm not going to work on it yet, but people are still going to look at it whether you invest the time or not. Right. So just get it done. Like, it's going to take half a day and you can make it look a million times better.
To that end, Tim wants to know what kind of post works best on LinkedIn at the moment, because it's always shifting, right?
Yeah, this is a tough question, because I think that I like to do marketing and have fun when I'm doing social media marketing. And so even if something is maybe more popular or trending at the time, I still stick to what works for me and what's fun for me. And so for me, I'm naturally a writer first. And so from the beginning of time, I have done like the text and photo posts. Those have always been popular. I did see a dip like a few years ago, but that's been fine recently. And actually they've shown like there's a pretty dramatic increase if you include either photos or videos with your text content. So that's one form of content. Polls are really popular right now. LinkedIn tends to be a more passive platform. And so one way to get people out of lurking mode is to include a poll where you're asking some sort of irresistible question where they want to give their opinion and things like that. So polls are really popular. I mean, I could talk about LinkedIn stories all day long. You know, Christine, like I'm on Instagram stories, and I don't even have like a strategy for that.
Stories, like what are people doing with LinkedIn? So, I mean, I know we have to. What are people like? How do you use that?
So how are people using it, and how should they use them? That's totally different.
Good. Let's stick to it.
Good. Okay. Yeah. How should they? I mean, it's really what the opportunity is that you can stay top of mind, and you can post. If you post 6 LinkedIn stories per day, people aren't going to be like, "Oh my God, Michaela, shut up!" Right? If you were to do the same thing in your feed, you would get a very different reaction. And by the way, just like trend-wise, they have shown a trend across platforms where people are posting less in their feeds on Instagram, on Facebook, on all these other places. I know Twitter Spaces is becoming really popular. So people are looking people are looking for more conversational content. And my theory is because with the pandemic, hello, who else is lonely right now? We want to have conversations. We don't just want to read posts, right? We want to have those one-on-one conversations, and stories are a great way to have those one-on-one conversations. So the easiest way to do it is like, what's the behind the scenes? Like before this call, I could show like my lighting setup. I could show my dog snoring on my shoulder being like,
I'm going to do it. We're going up on my LinkedIn stories after this.
you got it. Like, it's just so much fun. And here's the biggest benefit for LinkedIn stories, in my opinion, is that who else has LinkedIn connections where it's like, you have no idea what to say to them, how to break the ice, right? Nope. I have people that will like watch this and be like, oh, I really liked your interview with Christine. And I'm socially awkward. So I will be like, thanks. And and I don't know where to go from that, right? And so LinkedIn stories offer you an opportunity to open up that one-on-one conversation and break the ice that either people that you haven't talked to in a while, or new connections where you're like, I don't know where to go from here.
You can
So
bust into those DMs.
That's exactly it. So if you are doing stories, just make sure that you're watching your inbox, because people can reply to you directly. And that's just a great way to start building those relationships. So
Love it.
I'm biased, but LinkedIn stories are my favorite place at the moment.
I'm gonna hit it. All right.
And then LinkedIn, sorry, one more. LinkedIn newsletters is another feature that I think is worth looking at, because people can actually subscribe.
I've subscribed to a few. I don't think everyone has that functionality yet, but the people who I follow,
you're right. You're right. I get access to these things because I'm an instructor, and then I forget when I like say it out loud. But
I follow a few people's newsletters, and it's really helpful.
It definitely is.
Yeah. All right, two very quick ones. Oh man, this one's not going to be quick. All right. How do you see LinkedIn evolve as more people gravitate towards other platforms for job searching, skill building, and networking? Because, I mean, I know places like Clubhouse have become very kind of networky.
Yeah.
So what do you think LinkedIn's place is going to be as these other platforms sort of eat in on that turf?
I think that LinkedIn has, at this point, proven its place in the social media atmosphere. I see the value of things like Clubhouse. I know LinkedIn has been very like a slow and steady giant. And it's one of the fastest growing platforms behind the scenes. But I think that they're going to look at what's working with other platforms, like they have done with Facebook, with like stories and with groups and everything, all the changes that they've been making, and figure out how they can integrate some of that onto LinkedIn. So I could certainly see some sort of Clubhouse-ish features maybe included with LinkedIn events or something like that. And even like with things like TikTok, I'm seeing a lot of people that are taking TikTok materials and they're putting it on LinkedIn. So I could certainly see maybe a place to create more like entertaining, quick snippet type videos. But I'm going to say it right now. LinkedIn isn't going anywhere. No. People have been saying this for such a long time, and it has been growing steadily.
Dead in years ago.
It's not like for organic reach, it's like unparalleled. So it's great to like spread yourself out for sure and do what gets you excited, right? Like there are things that I do Instagram stories. I don't have a strategy there. I still end up landing some clients somehow because people just like learn to like get to know me kind of thing.
You've landed clients on TikTok, LinkedIn clients
on TikTok,
right?
No, so do what's fun for you and what's like what you're drawn to, and don't put all your eggs in one basket, but certainly don't discount some of the platforms. People have been saying this even with Facebook, right? Like Facebook is disappearing, Twitter's disappearing. Like these platforms
Facebook died
have
in 2018. Everyone was positive Facebook was dead January 2018. We're still on it.
Right. So don't necessarily listen to like the chatter and look at the stats, right? Which platforms are growing, what new features are being introduced, and constantly be a student. Try things, like Clubhouse certainly isn't like natural for me, but it's something that I constantly am trying to see if there's a space for me there. So I don't know if that really answers it, but I don't think LinkedIn's going
anywhere. More human interaction is where you see it going. And then the final question is just a fun one. Since you are a coffee lover, Jeremy, who is also a coffee lover, wants to know your coffee order at a coffee shop. I can't wait till we have a coffee life again. But what's your order?
Oh my God, I'm so excited that you're asking me this because I just got a new one. So they retired the double shot on ice, which was like my go-to order at Starbucks. But now they have the shaken espressos, and they have one that's like a brown sugar oat milk one. Please, if you haven't tried it and you're dairy free, even if you're not dairy free, because I tried it and I thought that maybe there was cream in there. Like I had to look at it before I drank more. Their oat milk is so creamy. Free. It is so delicious. So I'm like, I like drinks that have espresso versus like coffee. Like I'm not huge on cold brew. I just love that like really rich taste of espresso. So, but the shaken ones are really, really good.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you so much, Michaela, for being on. Tell everyone where they can find you.
So I mean, LinkedIn is probably the easiest place. So you can find me. You can certainly follow my company page if you want those LinkedIn tips and tricks and strategies and freebies and all of those good things. And then if you want to learn more of the personal side of me, I share a lot about my journey with infertility and chronic illness on Instagram at Alexis. And then I'm also on TikTok at LinkedIn Queen, and I do these profile reviews of followers. So I need to get back into that because that was super fun, and I'm really surprised at how many people volunteer for that. But those are like more of like the quick entertaining, if you like those like quick snippet videos. But those are the three places, and then micalexis.com is my website.
I love it. Thank you so much, Michaela, for being on. For you. And I am going to go get that brown sugar drink basically right after this.
It's delicious.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Again, I'm here every single Friday, 12 noon Eastern, and I also have my Twitter chat, which is on Tuesdays, and it's on the same topic as my Friday show. So next Tuesday's chat, we're talking about digital branding, what it has in common with branding in general, and how it is a specific field all its own, and we're going to be talking about that on Friday with my guest, Junte Delane, who is a digital branding specialist. So I hope to see all of you next week. Bye!